Hello everyone. What you're seeing in the background is some pre-recorded footage of me playing Anthem. I played it very early this morning and I didn't want to wake people up while talking over it at the same time, so I waited for everyone to get up and get ready before I did the voice thing. So anyway, I've played a bit of it. I'd say I played roughly about 3 hours worth of it now, and since it's a demo, I think that's a good enough time to have first reactions, like a first impression, if you will. So I want to first of all, before I get into everything, is it's if you don't know anything about, I come into this not knowing anything. I haven't followed it at all. I knew the name and I knew that it was going to be sort of a looter shooter like Destiny, but it didn't have PvP, and that's basically all I knew about it. So I thought I'd give the demo a go. I love Destiny. I've been addicted to that for many, many months now, so I thought this one would be quite interesting, especially the fact it has no PvP, it only has the PvE, which I found to be particularly interesting because I'm not altogether that good at PvP. So I thought, with the extra focus on the PvE, it'd be quite fun. And it's from BioWare. I love BioWare. Their games are great. I haven't played Andromeda, so I never had a opinion on how crap that was, but most of their other, I'd say all of their other games, I'm very much a huge fan of. I've been a fan of theirs since Knights of the Old Republic. So I was, saw their name and I thought this would be pretty good. So let's now that the preamble's out of the way, let's actually get into it. So there's a few things that I've noted down whilst playing it. Is the fact that it is a very beautiful game. It's a very good game, very, very pretty. I very much enjoyed. How do I put this? I very much enjoyed basically just wandering around and having a look at it and really, taking everything in. The everything just looks so crisp. And I'm sorry about the dog; he's being a pain. So yeah, everything just looks really crisp and fun. Basically it just looks alive, and that's what I really liked as well. The fact that you can dive underwater, fly around in the air, this big open area. It's really great. I did really enjoy it. And it's very, very pretty. The sound design is great. I absolutely adore the sound design. I think it really, everything sounds like it has an impact. The guns sound like they have an impact. Flying, landing, melee, everything sounds like it has a really good impact. And that's something that I don't think many games get right, is the impact for everything. So, I'm very much a fan of the sound design. I think it's a very improved even on BioWare's other games like Mass Effect. I think it's very improved over that. So yeah, I enjoyed listening to everything, shooting everything. That's pretty good. And the voice acting as well. Like as I said, I went through a couple of the missions which have cutscenes, which is pretty good. The voice acting's pretty nice. As I expect from BioWare, to be honest. It did make me a little bit interested in the story, even though you start off like what appears to be like halfway through it. It did keep me interested enough to want to do more missions and figure it out. So, yeah, it was pretty good. So that's my positives for it. There's a fair few negatives though. So let's start with that. I know a lot of people, as I've seen, have liked shitting on the game for its negatives. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to list them, and then I'll give you an overall interpretation of what I think of the game at the end. The load times are absolutely excruciatingly long. It's just ridiculous. It honestly is. The load times are horrible, and the amount of loading screens is absolutely mind-boggling to me. I don't know whether that's in the full game or if it's just for the demo because there's bits missing. I don't know, but I can tell you if this is meant to, attract people to buy the game, it did it the wrong way with the load screens, because holy hell. In one mission, now bear in mind this is installed on my SSD. I had in one mission, and the mission roughly lasted about, I'd say, 15 minutes. I had 5 load screens. Okay, and that's not including the ones to load into not the one to load into the mission. If I invoke that one, that's 6. And they were all about a minute each. So what would happen is you load into it, takes about a minute. Then you go through the area and it says follow the marker, your generic quest point, follow the marker, go to the, and we went into a little cave and it had a load screen for the cave. We were in the cave for all of 30 seconds to pick something up, and then we had to leave the cave and it got another loading screen. Then we had to go to another place which also had a loading screen. And then we were there for about 2 minutes, and then we had to go back out, which had another load screen. It's excessive. And especially with how long the load times are. On an SSD, I was sitting at about, a minute and a half, 2 minutes per load screen. That's excessive. Very excessive. So that kind of annoyed me. And it got to a point where after one mission, I was like, I kind of can't be bothered anymore because I feel like I spent about a third of the time in a loading screen. So that was that. These are in no particular order as well. So if my negatives are a bit jumbled up, that's because it's the way I've written them. So the player voice. I don't mind games that have a player voice, like, obviously, when let's take Mass Effect, another BioWare's games, where you're Commander Shepard, okay, you have a name, and you have a voice, but it's your character. Here, the character has a voice, but they don't have a name, like, they're just called Freelancer, which is just generic, and I don't feel like, every time I saw that on the subtitles, because I love having subtitles on, every time I heard my character talk, I was like, well, is this trying to be me? Because it's not me. I don't sound like that. And it sort of took me out of the experience. If they had said, like, if they'd done the old Commander Shepard route and said, hey, this guy's last name is I don't know, Smith, but you can change his first name, and his call sign is your login to Origin and stuff like that, and sort of let you do the Commander Shepard type thing, like roleplay a character. I think that would have worked better than just having generic freelancer name and then voice. To me, that sort of dragged me out of the cutscenes, because it's like, to myself, I was thinking, well, are they trying to make this me? Because if they're trying to make it me and my character as if I'm I just don't get it. Like, it's hard to explain, but essentially it just pulled me out of the experience. I prefer if they did the Commander Shepard route rather than try and make my character me with a voice. Otherwise, I would have preferred to just not had a voice and just had a text option to click. Even if it was only the one option, just so, I didn't have, I don't know. It's almost like the Fallout 4 type thing as well. You give your character a voice and suddenly you feel like it's not your character anymore. So there's that. Whilst the game is beautiful, I had quite a few frame drops, and according to my recording software, it also skipped a fair few frames during the action sequences. Now, bear in mind I was playing on Ultra, so that might have caused it to happen a little bit, but it's just kind of odd that, I've got a GTX 1080 Ti, and basically I'm getting frame drops on, the recommended settings for my card, essentially. That kind of weirded me out. And it was noticeable as well. That's the problem. Even in the hub area, when it's just a whole NPCs and not a whole bunch of action. Opening a door or something would cause my frames to drop a little bit, which was annoying. Also, there's no there's no FPS counter option in the game. You can't just have an FPS counter in the top left or the top right or wherever you like it, just to keep an eye on your how everything's running. That's not a major thing. That's a personal thing for me. I enjoy having stuff like that around. But it wasn't there, so that's kind of annoying for me. But as I said, it's going to be minor for everyone else, so I'm not holding it, that against the game too bad. So yeah, there was that. The flight mechanics, whilst it's fun to fly around, they're fucking horrible to control. The flight controls are absolutely disgusting. Like, the amount of times I found myself flying into walls was just too much. You know, you have to take incredibly small movements to fly on target. And that's annoying, especially if I want to look around the world as I'm flying through it, which you can't do. You have to sort of keep, you know, facing where you need to go. There's, you know, it's I would have preferred a flight control where the mouse just moves the camera and you can just use WAS and D to move and fly, rather than having to hold the mouse and it, you know, your character moves with the mouse. I don't know. I don't know how well that would have been implemented, but you know, it felt very constricting when I wanted to observe the whole world around me as I was flying and take in its beauty. I just couldn't, because the controls are so out there, and it honestly feels like you're fighting against your controller a lot. Like, not your controller, your mouse. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about it because it feels much like a controller. Like, if you're using the right analog stick, if you move your mouse a little, it moves a little bit. But if you move your mouse anywhere near a normal speed, it's like it has a ridiculous acceleration. Like, you'll just suddenly whip off to the right really fast and smack into a wall. And I found it so hard to get used to. So I don't know whether that's by design or if, you know, I really don't know. It's just, flying is just generally was not fun. I ended up, as much as I liked, you know, I wanted to fly and see everything, I ended up just running everywhere because I found that to be more, well, easier to, you know, navigate than the flight, which was, you know, kind of annoying. The sound disappeared at lots of points for me. Like, my gun would just stop making noise, or, you know, and then, you know, other guns would stop making noise. I'd take damage, I don't know, and I'm not hearing anything. At one point the sound stopped altogether, and I just couldn't hear anything. There was just no sound. I was like I was playing, like, with my speakers off. And that lasted for about 40 seconds, and then it sort of just, all the sounds that didn't happen in, you know, those 40 seconds were mashed together at the end of the 40 seconds, and it was just this cacophony of what the fuck, and it was horrible. So I don't know what's up with that, but yeah, the sound's a bit off. The network's laggy. I don't know whether it's because there's no servers down here in New Zealand or around Australia. I don't know, but it was incredibly laggy with people skipping all over left, right, and center. And on my screen, I'm shooting at someone, and I'm thinking, "Ooh, right, I'm actually hitting them," and then all of a sudden they'd be over the other side of wherever we're fighting this arena, and I've done nothing. Their health just pops back up. So I must look like a complete fool to everyone else because they're obviously hitting their shots and I'm not. So that was weird. There's a lot of visual noise as well in the game when you've got a full party and fighting and everything, especially in this closed area. There's just so much visual noise. I just couldn't keep up with what was going on, and combine that with the network lag as well. It was hot. I ended up just for one fight just standing there because I didn't know what was going on, and I felt like I was being more of a hindrance and a help to my team was all. So that's kind of annoying. There's a rather silly amount of pop-in in the hub area. As in, and you don't notice it. This is the thing. Like, you walk up to, let's say, the stairs, walking up to your javelin. Okay, you walk up the stairs. I didn't notice that it didn't have much detail on it. And then as I'm walking up the stairs to get to my javelin, the detail popped in. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, you could have just saved some processing time and just not had that extra detail, because what's the point? You know, I didn't notice it to begin with, but then I noticed it when it popped in. And that happens a lot in the hub world as I was walking around. Just random extra detail would pop in when you get super close to it, and it's a bit jarring. Took me out of the experience a little bit. And the only other minor complaint I really have against the game is the fact that I can't aim down the sights. And now that might just be me being used to Destiny, but the fact that I'm using a scout rifle, which clearly has a scope on the top, and when I aim down the sights, it just does the third person over the shoulder snap. That's kind of annoying. I want to be a bit more accurate with my shots, especially with single shot rifles like that, so I wouldn't mind, even if it's just a red dot sight, just looking down it for stuff like that. The assault rifle and the heavy machine gun, I can understand why you won't have an ADS for that. Absolutely. But if it's a gun with an actual scope on it, I'd like to look down the scope. Simply because if it has a scope, you're trying to be more accurate, and ADS is obviously more accurate than over-the-shoulder stuff. But yeah, that's as I said, that's a minor detail. I'm not going to hold it against it since it is a third-person game, not a first-person game. So yeah, and that's basically everything that I experienced in my time that I wrote down that I felt was noteworthy. So yeah, overall, I'd say that Anthem is, based on the demo. If someone, I don't know anything else about it. Literally, this demo is meant to make me feel like the game is good enough to buy. And let's cut to the chase here. It didn't. Like, it seems like a solid game, and I'd play the fuck out of it if it was free. Like, if it was a game like Warframe, where you can, and I haven't played that because I didn't get into it, but if it had the same sort of basis as Warframe, where you can get into it for free, but then you can buy all like the suits and everything, blah 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 blah. I'd absolutely download it and play the shit out of it. But the fact that it's retailing at, a full price, especially here in New Zealand, it's retailing at like $110. I don't think it's worth me sinking that money into it. Based off of the demo, it just doesn't. Like, maybe I'll pick it up again when it's super cheap, and wait for it to drop to something like 20, 30 bucks, and then I'll pick it up. But yeah, like, it just doesn't, it didn't do enough to, make me think, fuck, this is great. And that's because of all the reasons I put in, like, mainly, and also because, like, you got those performance issues, you got the fact that you're dropped into the story, like, what feels like halfway through, so you have no idea what's going on. For me, personally, I think a bit of feedback for the demo would have been, it let us do the first mission. The first, like, tutorial mission that, is in the full game. And then basically from there, skip a few missions. That way, you feel invested to begin with. And you get that little learning experience. And then you can go into some of the more, thrust into the action stuff to give you a better idea of what the game's like, rather than being, lumbered into it and sort of having to figure it out on your own. I felt kind of lost. And please, for the love of God, cut down those loading screens, because holy shit, there's too many. Just too many. If this is meant to be, this isn't a beta or an alpha, this is a demo. It's called a demo, so it's basically showing off the finished product. That's what a demo does. It's a small section of a finished product to say, hey, this is what it's going to be like. Here's, are you interested? Come buy the game. And it's not, if it is a snapshot of the full game, I'm not interested enough to buy it for full price. I'm just not. I'm interested in the game in general, but no way near enough to pay full price for it. I'm just not. It's one of those things. I don't know. I'm really tripping over my words here because it's hard for me to really put into explanation without rehashing everything I've done. But essentially, it didn't do enough for me. It didn't wow me. It piqued my interest, but it didn't wow me. And I think that they have a lot to work on if they want, if people are playing the demo and going, hey, this game is, this is what the game's like. I think they've got a bit to work on, to get people to actually buy the game, because the demo's very, just doesn't feel good overall. Like, it's beautiful, as I said, it's got all its positives, but the negatives, like the lag and the performance issues and the sound disappearing and all the things that I mentioned before, but the main killer is the loading screens. Like that, it just takes you out of the experience, and that's not what people want. I don't want to be spending a third to a half of my time in a mission loading. That's not fun. Either make the mission longer so the load screens feel worth it, or find a way to preload the next area. You know, otherwise, people are going to get bored. I got bored after you know, it's in the mission. You know, I was tempted to quit after the first mission simply because of the loading screens. I was like, why am I on my 5th loading screen? I've only done one mission in 15 minutes. Like that, it blew my mind that, you know, they have this. I understand that you had it in like the older games. You know, stuff like Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect. You had the loading screens, but even then, they seem lightning fast compared to the ones in here. And I don't know whether that's because this is BioWare's first real multiplayer thing that they're trying to figure out, but, you know, they're working with EA. EA have a lot of experience with this, and it feels like that experience wasn't applied properly to help out with this. And it's really, yeah, it just creates this sort of middling effect. Like, I don't hate it. I think it's a good game. I think it's got a good basis, and I'm looking forward to it, you know, to giving it a good go. But at the same time, I don't feel like it's worth the money that they're asking for it. So I'm sort of stuck in this sort of grey area of going, yeah, it looks alright. So that's pretty much how I'm going to sum up Anthem. It's alright. It could be better. Could be a ton worse. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as some people are putting in, you know, the subreddits and the forums and everything. I don't think it's that bad, but it ain't amazing either. It's not. Let's put it this way: if it's trying to pry away, you know, the customer base from Destiny, because it's in the same genre, it's not doing a good enough job. There's too much to work on, I feel. So I'm more than happy to give it a proper go once it drops in price, or becomes free to play, if you know, eventually, I don't know. But if they don't do anything about it soon, you know, if it stays full price for a considerable amount of time, I'm more than likely going to forget about it and just not bother playing it, which will be a shame because it does have a lot of I feel like it has a lot of potential, but I don't, you know, it's just I don't think it's worth the full price they're asking for it if the demo is actually a snapshot of the full game. So yeah, I mean, that's my opinion. If you agree or disagree or have other points you want to make, feel free to leave them in the comments. I read every single comment that's posted on my videos, and I'll quite happily engage in a discussion with you. I don't mind that. And, you know, I will absolutely give it another go. If, you know, it's requested enough, I'll, you know, fork out the money for it and give it a proper, you know, shake of the lamb's tail, if you will. But, you know, as a first impression from the demo, it's alright. It ain't great. It ain't shit. It's alright. So anyway, thank you for watching this. I know it's been a bit of a long video, but thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I can get some more videos out soon. Life's been very hectic at the moment, so I'll just sum it up by saying I'm getting married and buying a house, and there's promotions on the line, so it's very, very busy lately. So hopefully I'll get back into videos soon, but I hope you understand if, you know, there's still a big gap between them is all. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you liked what I did, feel free to watch my other stuff, and if you like that, subscribing would be lovely. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.